Welcome, guys, to another episode of Daniel's Sports Ledger, sports betting tips and picks for sports bettors. I am your host, Daniel Cameron, and today we're doing something a little different, a little more fun. We are going to do a 2021 NFL mock draft featuring the Kimball Jones here. And Kimball, it's always great to have you, and it's been a while, so it's great to have you on here again.
Thanks for having me on, man. Good to see you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I got my Daniel Sports Ledger, coffee mug here, or any kind of mug. Very nice. So we are going to go ahead. So we have something going on that's a little bit different. So Kimball and I are going to draft differently. Kimball is going to draft based on who he's going to mock the draft based on who he thinks the teams are really going to pick. And I'm going to draft as if I'm the actual GM of the team. So my picks may be a little bit out there, a little more eccentric, because they're my opinion, as if I was that GM. And so we're going to have a little fun with it. And so we'll start out with the number one pick in the draft. Kimball Jones, Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do you like?
Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go number one. It's pretty clear cut. They even have a romance in social media between the city of Jacksonville, the team, Trevor. So he's going number one. There seems to be no doubt there. Great. I think he's a great player. He's one of the best quarterback prospects that we've had. He seemed like an obvious number one from the first time I saw him in the national championship game as a freshman. So I'm not surprised to see him go here. One thing that, however, it wouldn't shock me if he ended up not being the best quarterback of the group. We could look back 2 or 3 years down the road. Last year, going into the draft, I think that everybody felt pretty strongly about the number one as well. And I don't think anybody was wrong about that based on the information available. But, man, obviously Herbert looks unbelievable. And so in retrospect, going forward, if I had my choice, I might take Herbert now. But I think we could see something like that in a year or two from this draft class. In fact, I kind of expect it. But he's going number one, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think he's clearly the best player in this draft. I think that's who I'm taking. I'm the GM of the Jaguars. I am taking Trevor Lawrence without a doubt. So number two pick, this is where things get interesting. The New York Jets. Who do you have for the New York Jets?
So I don't even think things are interesting. I think that it's almost as clear cut. They're picking Zach Wilson. I think there's no doubt about it. I'm not saying that the argument for it is quite the same. If you don't pick Trevor Lawrence, you're going to get fired as the GM. That's how it is probably, right? It's going to be looked at as something very stupid, whether it's stupid or not. It's something that you can't afford to do for your own career. Just like the GM of the Texans got fired when he didn't pick Bush back in the day, that ended up being the cause of his ultimate downfall, even though he made the right pick by picking a great defensive end. Instead of Reggie Bush, who turned out to be okay, solid. So but the bottom line is Zach Wilson, I do think, is going to the Jets. I think that it's pretty clear. There are a lot of indicators that make it seem that there's not really any doubt remaining. Zach Wilson is my favorite player in the draft. And I should note that he is from my alma mater, right? So I went to BYU myself, and I watched probably every Zach Wilson game there has been. One thing I will say about Zach Wilson, well, a few things I'll say. I don't think I have watching BYU quarterbacks over the years. They've had a number of them who've gone to the NFL. Zach Wilson was the most phenomenal, just has the most phenomenal arm that I have seen at BYU ever. It reminds me of it really does remind me of Aaron Rodgers, the way that he just flings the ball out there, and it's just this perfect, beautiful pass. I think Zach Wilson is likely to be great. I will say this. I think he's overrated as a runner. He had 10 touchdowns or something like that as a runner. He's not much of a runner, but man, can he fling the ball. And so I think he's very much a pocket passer, and I think that I would be afraid of having him run because he has a good physique for a normal guy like you or I, but he doesn't have a ton of muscle on that frame. And this is for him and Lawrence. I'd be a little bit afraid of them getting hit by NFL linebackers. So great arm. I'm really excited to see what he does. Barring injury, I think there's a real chance to get the best quarterback in the class.
Yeah. Well, I guess when I said this is where it gets interesting, maybe I meant for me. Because I am the GM of the New York Jets, and I am picking who I believe is the second best quarterback in this draft. Clearly, well, maybe not clearly, but I do believe he's above Wilson in my opinion. And I know here's the thing: we might not know about this guy for a year or two. Maybe somebody drafts him and he ends up being Aaron Rodgers, sitting for a while. And then we find out that's who they should have. So I don't know if this will be immediate, but I think the next best quarterback in this draft, for me, Kyle Trask. I'm taking Kyle Trask from Florida. I think he's the best passer. He has touch on the ball. I think he's the best, the next best quarterback in this draft. Some people say that Kyle Pitts made him look good. I think maybe he made Kyle Pitts look good. I guess we'll find out. But Kyle Trask, that's who I'm taking for the Jets.
Yeah, so I just have to push back on that. There's no way around it. So obviously that's not going to happen. I understand what you're doing. Kyle Trask is not the best quarterback in the draft. He's not one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the draft.
No, the second best.
Right.
For sure.
My ranking of Kyle Trask is probably number 7 in the draft. That's probably where I put him. He does not have nearly the arm that Wilson has, and the passing, it's not close. And when you talk about touch on the ball, I've watched film on both of these guys. I don't think it's even a close call. Wilson has touch that is really amazing. But by the way, I also think that really all the 4 top guys in this draft are all significantly ahead of Trask in that regard. But with respect to who makes who look good, I mean, Trask had well, you'll see 2 first-round draft picks on his team that he was throwing the ball to.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that maybe he made them look good. Well, one of the guys is just a ridiculous freak athlete, one of the best athletes in the draft. And the other one is Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts has the largest wingspan in the history of the NFL I think for any skill player ever. Mm-hmm. And so I think that Kyle Trask had a lot of help. I think he very likely could be a solid quarterback. Who knows, right? Nobody saw it coming with Brady either.
Yeah. Well, I disagree, but that's we'll find out. So the 49ers.
Yeah, so this one's a very interesting pick. I think this is where a lot of people start to not really know what's going on in the draft. To me, it is extremely clear. I'm not saying I know for sure who 49ers are picking, but I do know who they're not picking, and they're not picking Mac Jones. That is not happening. So they are picking either Trey Lance or Justin Fields, and I believe it's Justin Fields. I think that is the far more likely scenario. They are not picking Mac Jones. So I can't say that to you enough. The 49ers, if you analyze their organization, they are very, very, very good at one thing, and that is not letting secrets escape. No one saw at all until it was announced that they were making the trade to go up to number 3. No one, if you look at their transaction history, big moves that they've made over the years, no one saw any of them over the last few years until they were announced, because they are airtight in terms of within their department not letting out information. And then what happens? They trade up to number 3, and then every reporter in the world has insider information that they're going for Mac Jones. Well, they wanted people to report that, and that's why they put it out there. They're not going for Mac Jones. They could have happily sat back and picked up Mac Jones who fell to them in their prior position. They're picking Justin Fields here because Justin Fields would very likely be a number one pick in most drafts. And frankly, I think the top 4 quarterbacks in this draft would all be number one picks in next year's draft.
Okay, we're going to have some fun today. Well, I am the 49ers GM, and I select Zach Wilson here. I think this is a great spot for him. I think Zach Wilson, for me, I think it's very important that he has a good offensive line. And he's going to have a good offensive line. He's going to have a tight end. He's going to have a genius for a quarterback. A coach as far as offensively. And, I think this is his best. I'm not 100% sold on Zach Wilson, but the more I think about it, the more I do like him. And in this spot, I think he's going to excel. I think it's perfect for him. I think if he went to the Jets, we don't know what might happen. So anyways, yeah, I like Zach Wilson right here.
By the way, so I think I actually love this pick. I think this is exactly what Zach Wilson wants, what his family wants. And
well, if you think about it, right, he's Mormon, went to BYU. Steve Young, Mormon, BYU, 49ers.
Well, and that.
So I'm sure his family does think that would be really cool, you know.
Yeah, and I will. It's interesting because obviously Utah does not have an NFL team, but if having lived in Utah, having gone to BYU myself, there is a massive 49ers contingent in Utah because of Steve Young. And
right.
So there would be like there's already a natural fan base for it. And I do think that the 49ers, obviously they have a much better track record of doing a good job with their people and of developing talent than the Jets do. I think it is a better situation. I do think both the Jets and the Niners have a relatively good offensive line, if not a very good offensive line. So I do think that both of them will be in a pretty solid position in that regard. But I agree. I think Zach Wilson would rather go to the Niners. I think the Niners would rather have Zach Wilson. And if somehow Zach Wilson slips free, I think it's a perfect pick for all sides.
Yeah. So number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. I'm curious who you have for that.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I'm not doing any trades in this draft. I expect this pick will be traded and someone will trade up to take Trey Lance, but I'm taking Trey Lance even for the Falcons. I think that the Falcons are in an awkward stage in their organization. I think that they're okay, not great. I think that Matt Ryan is okay, not great. I know that they just rearranged his contract, so he'll be there for a couple more years. But Trey Lance is an incredible talent. There's a lot unknown about him. He's the biggest unknown probably of these top quarterbacks, and he didn't play at all, of course, this last year, just the one game where he was okay. But the year before, 0 interceptions with a ton of touchdowns, phenomenal passer. You watch the pro days, of course, it's just somebody chucking a ball around, but man, he's an athlete and he can throw the ball. So I predict Trey Lance being picked by the Falcons here. More likely than not, I think they trade the pick and someone else picks him here.
Okay. So I didn't do any trades either, actually. So if I'm the GM of the Falcons, I am picking Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback from Alabama for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that's what they need. I'm not picking a quarterback this high. Certainly not Trey Lance. Some things maybe you do or do not know about him. They actually didn't throw the ball very much. He did have some accuracy issues. He only played for 1 year. I'm like cutting the 4th pick in the draft when I have Julio Jones and a good offense and the Falcons that went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and all those things. I'm number 4 on Trey Lance, a guy that played for 1 year. no, I'm not. That's way too big of a risk for me. Uh, there's no way. There's no way from here to Sunday that I'm doing that. So yeah, I'm taking the corner, showing up their defense better, and that's where I'm going with this pick.
Yeah, I love Surtain. I don't have him that high. If I was not to go with Trey Lance, I'd go with Kyle Pitts here. If I were the Falcons, but yeah, I'm
Well, the Falcons just picked up Hayden Hurst, so
yeah, I wouldn't care. Kyle Pitts is too good. He outside of the quarterbacks, to me, he is the most talented guy in this draft. Period, and by a pretty wide margin.
yeah. Okay. The Bengals. Who do you have for the Bengals? I think this is obvious.
No, actually, well, it might not be. Who do you think I got?
The tackle from Oregon.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I'm going Jamar Chase for the Bengals.
Okay, the receiver.
Yeah, I think Jamar Chase is the best receiver prospect in this draft, which is actually a very strong receiver class. Jamar Chase is very fast, big, high points the ball. He's a phenomenal receiver. I think he's going to be one of the best receivers in the NFL within just a couple of years. And he already obviously has some degree of that synergy, having played with Burrow, right? And so coming from LSU and being Burrow's main man.
That gives Burrow two of his LSU receivers.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We saw how great Jefferson was as Burrow's other LSU receiver. And Jefferson was not the preferred target. He was the number 2 guy on that.
Oh, never mind. They have Higgins. I forgot. That's right. They drafted Higgins.
Yeah, they got him. So, yeah, I have a Jamar Chase.
Okay, no, I mean, the dude just tore his ACL. I'm giving him an offensive tackle, Penei Sewell from Oregon. I got to protect this guy. He just tore his ACL, okay? I'm giving him some protection. And I think Sewell's clearly the best offensive lineman in this draft, and I think he's one of the. I mean, he's compared to like Orlando Pace. I mean, he could be one of the best tackles in the draft for a few years and for a few years in the future. I mean, this guy's a stud, and I mean, he just tore his ACL. I'm giving him Orlando Pace to protect him, basically. So that's where I'm going. Number 6, the Miami Dolphins from the Eagles. Who do you have the Miami Dolphins drafting?
I have him taking Kyle Pitts. So I have him taking Pitts. He's there. They've seen him in Florida the whole time, and I just think Kyle Pitts is.
So they're going to run 2 tight ends.
Yeah, or they'll alternate them, whatever they have to do. They're taking the best player available, who is Kyle Pitts, and they're taking. You just can't let this guy go. He's just too much of a. Just a talent that is not going to come around very often. I mean, he is probably the very best tight end prospect I have ever seen coming out of college, period.
Yeah. So here I'm taking the linebacker from P State, Micah Parsons. And I mean, the Dolphins are really hard to draft for. When I sat down and I'm looking at this team, they have a team. This is going to be kind of funny, and whether you agree with what I'm going to say about Ryan Fitzpatrick or not, you'll understand what I'm trying to say here. They have a team full of Ryan Fitzpatricks, and what I mean by that is they have, I would say Ryan Fitzpatrick's maybe the 14th best quarterback in the league, so he's better than half of the league, but he's not the quarterback you want. You want a top 10, top 5 quarterback, right? And that's the Dolphins. They have this guy who they have good players in all their positions, but it's like you don't really need to draft someone better, but you want someone better, and it's like, what do I do here? You know what I mean? And the biggest need for me is linebacker, inside linebacker especially, and I mean, Micah Parsons, I think that's a good fit for the Dolphins right there.
And I love Parsons. He has the issues that came up, that maybe has some immaturity issues. Let's hope that's the extent of it. but he's gotten himself into some little trouble on the side. Probably not a big deal. I hope it's not a big deal, but I think it could create a red flag for some people. I do think Parsons is a top level talent, certainly a top 10 talent in this draft. So I actually like the pick. They also lost Van Noy, and so if they feel great about Parsons, man, I think that he's quite a talent.
Okay. Next up would be the Detroit Lions.
Yes, I haven't taken Jalen Waddle, and I just think he's a stud. He was. There's some great video watching him before his injury, having a race with Ruggs when they were at Alabama, and they were just neck and neck. I'm not sure who won. I think Ruggs won, but it was very, very close. And Ruggs ran a sub, 4.340. Waddle is just a burner, and he's not a tiny little guy either. He's a guy that can high point the ball, a guy that can get open. Devonta Smith was considered the second best receiver on the team until Waddle got injured. I think Waddle's going to be great. So that's who I have the Lions taking at number 7.
Well, I have Jalen Waddle as well. Obviously I haven't picked Pitts yet, but actually I was wrong. The Falcons don't have Hayden Hurst because the Detroit Lions just got Hayden Hurst. But the Falcons have somebody, I forget who it is now. But anyways, they already have a pretty good tight end. And I think Waddle, here's why I like Waddle for the Lions. When I look at Jared Goff, he had Robert Woods, and Waddle. I think Waddle plays somewhat like Woods, and Goff. That was Goff's main guy, and I think he's just comfortable with that type of receiver. And I just think that he fits with Goff just, perfectly. So that's what I like Jalen Waddle there too. And I also agree with you. I've always thought he was better than Devontae Smith. And so.
Yeah,
and he was the number 2. You're right about that too.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Goff. I think that he'll be out of the league in a few more years. But with respect to him being similar to Wood, I do kind of dig that comparison. But the difference is that Wood ran like a 4.5, 4.6 40. Waddle runs like a 4.28 or 4.29. I mean,
right.
By burns. And so
I guess I just mean more of his route running. But yeah, he does have more speed.
Yeah, so it's like I do see some good comparisons there, and then you have that additional speed. I think he's going to be quite a prospect. I think he'll be great.
Yeah. So the Carolina Panthers, who do you have here?
I have them taking Patrick Surtain.
Okay.
The second. So you had him going a little bit earlier. I have them grabbing him here. He's the best cornerback in the draft, in my opinion, by far the most safe cornerback. I don't think that he has the upside of some of the other cornerbacks. Certainly, you look at cornerbacks such as Caleb Farley, who has injury issues, of course, but also Horn. And even if you go down to like Kelvin Joseph and Grant, some of those guys, they have more upside probably, but he has enough upside to hang with anybody. And man, is he clean in everything that he does. And so, yeah, I really am a big fan of Surtain. When people were putting Farley ahead of him, I thought that was honestly not the right call, despite the superior physical tools that Farley had. So anyway, big fan of Surtain. I think they take him here. Okay,
this is where I take Kyle Pitts, tight end. I think they have some other needs. They you could argue they need a quarterback. I don't care that they trade for Darnold. And they also, you could argue they need a center as well. But Kyle Pitts, right here, look, Darnold, whether you have Darnold or Bridgewater, both of those guys are going to need a safety valve, especially Darnold, who sees ghosts. And, and so, you get a guy like Pitts and, I think that's a good. They already have a good defense. They have a good running game. So I'm gonna throw Pitts in there and we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
But
I feel about the same way. I like Darnold as a prospect better than I like Goff, but I don't like either one of them, and I don't think Darnold is going to do much in his career. So I think that he is a transitionary player.
I'll take Goff all over all the time. For sure. Anyways,
But I
okay, Denver, bro. Huh?
if Pitts was around, if Pitts is around at number 8, the Panthers would be foolish to not take him, and it would be like a perfect fit. I agree with that.
Okay. Awesome. Denver Broncos.
I have Denver. They got very lucky here, and they're taking Penei Sewell, who fell into their lap all the way at number 9. I agree with you. He's the best prospect in the draft as a tackle, best offensive line prospect in the draft by a decent margin, but not a huge margin. I would, in fact, I would. This is something that I would predict. I don't think he will be the best tackle from this draft in the long run, but I do think he is the best and safest prospect. I think his physical tools look better on film than I think they really are. And I think as he goes up against NFL level competition, I think we're going to see that he's going to turn into be a good but not elite tackle in the NFL. But I don't see there's like very little chance of him being anything less than solid. And so I like him, don't love him, but I think he's an easy pick at number 9.
Okay. So for the Denver Broncos, I'm going to take, as the GM for the Broncos, I'm going to take the best corner available, Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I love Farley. Farley's a great player. He's just had that back surgery, and so there's but they are a young team, and so that makes sense. They can probably live through that if they feel like his condition is not going to be an ongoing concern. Then yeah, I think he's a tremendous prospect. I mean, most people had him rated higher than Patrick Surtain in the early stages before he was going to have the back surgery. So yeah, I think he's a great prospect as long as you feel his health is okay.
Right. Dallas Cowboys.
I have them taking J.C. Horn, so who I have listed as my number 2 prospect on the board. Son of Joe Horn, who I remember tearing it up for the Saints back in the day at wide receiver. I think he's a very good talent. He's probably the most gifted, besides Farley, probably the most gifted cornerback in the draft in terms of physical tools. But he's very grabby, has some pretty bad habits. It seems like an easy thing that you can coach that out of somebody, but it tends to be harder than that for most people. And so I could see him racking up a lot of penalties the first couple of years in the NFL, a lot of PIs. But I like him, and I think the Cowboys take him here. I think the Cowboys wanted Surtain, and we're hoping he'd fall to them, and they take Horn instead.
Okay, well, I have very Dallas Cowboys pick here. This is a player that I personally know the Bills are very interested in, but they're not going to get him because the Cowboys are going to take him right here, which is Asante Samuel Jr., the cornerback from FSU, speed guy, can do it all. So.
Yeah, I'm a fan of him too. Makes sense. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody chose him over Horn. I don't think he's quite the physical specimen that Horn is, but he is very good, and he is a little bit more refined.
And it's DBACU University. I mean, everyone that comes from Florida State can play corner just about. Okay, so now the New York Giants.
The Giants, I have them taking Rashawn Slater, who is pretty much across the board considered to be the number 2 tackle in the draft. He did a very good job defending against Chase when they went head to head, and Chase, of course, has done a great job in the NFL. He's a high level tackle, and his measurables are very similar, frankly, to or a lot of the most important ones anyway, to Penei Sewell. So. Yeah, I have him going to the Giants here. The Giants obviously have a need at tackle, and I think Slater's a good fit.
Yeah, he 2 years ago he shut down Chase Young in a game. So, yeah. So the New York Giants. This is where I have Jamar Chase, wide receiver from LSU, going. I think that they need some weapons, and I've always been higher on Daniel Jones than you have, and probably a lot of people have. But let's give him a weapon.
Yeah,
So next up,
if Jamar Chase falls this far, it's an absolute steal. In most drafts that are not so stacked at quarterback, I think Jamar Chase would likely be a top 3 pick in most drafts. He is an amazing player. And one of the things that's important to remember about Jamar Chase is that everything that he did that's on film, he did as a 19-year-old, right? He was destroying people as a 19-year-old. And so now, anyway, he just continues to get better. So good pick. I like it.
Philadelphia Eagles.
I have Philadelphia taking Devonta Smith. I think he's a great prospect. There's a lot to like about him. Obviously, he's the Heisman winner and everything else. The Eagles have kind of had a history of not having a problem drafting players that have abnormal physical profiles, right? Little tiny guys that are very quick. And they've done well with that in at least a couple of instances that I can remember over the years. Devonta Smith kind of falls into that category. If I were GM, I'd be afraid of drafting this guy because I think he's just going to get injured very easily when he starts getting hit by NFL linebackers. But maybe not. And obviously, the league is softer than it used to be, and so I think there's more of a chance for him than there was for a guy like, say, Desmond Howard when he came out. And just really wasn't able to get off the line. I think Devonta Smith will be better at that. So anyway, I think that he gets picked by the Eagles here. I think that he's a high-level talent. Obviously, he's a Heisman winner and well-deserved, great player, but tiny.
Yeah,
106 pounds.
Yeah. They've got to catch him to tackle him, but no, I think he's so much better of a route runner than Desmond Howard was, though. So
that's true. That's a bad comparison. It's just I think
I understand. It's not that bad.
Yeah, well, if he had been in the same era as Desmond Howard, I don't think he would have ever been able to get off the line either. But I also agree that he is a phenomenal route runner. Yeah, and that's very different from Howard.
Yeah. So I love this pick because, as you know, the Eagles, I assume they still do it. I know that they do it somewhat, but I know they used to do it on almost every down, but they always play the wide 9. They put the defensive lineman way out there, defensive end. And this guy has to be the best wide 9 player I've ever seen. It's like he was already playing the position in college, and it's not really a position you play in college, but Kwity Paye, defensive end from Michigan. This guy is the perfect wide 9 defensive end. You already got Fletcher Cox in the middle. This guy, he's going to line out there. He's going to be one-on-one. He can go outside and go inside. It's almost like when you watch his film, it's almost like Jim Harbaugh said, okay, we're going to run this defense except for you. You're going to go out here and do this wide 9 thing. And everyone else is going to play a base defense. And it was like he was just out there on a corner and the left tackle just had to run out to him. And then he was just whichever way he wanted to go. And he is the quintessential perfect wide 9 defensive end if I've ever seen one. So that's who I'm taking, Kwity Paye. They can always use more pass rush.
Yeah, I'm not high on Kwity Paye, primarily due to just a lack of production. I'm not
either, except for in this instance.
Yeah. I mean, his talent level seems to be off the charts. His measurables are amazing, and he has a highlight reel that is something to behold. But man, I don't know if he's takes plays off player or what it is. But yeah, I hear you. And it wouldn't shock me if he goes this high. By the way, he's a physical specimen that he could go top 10. Probably won't in this draft, but yeah.
All right, so the Chargers.
I have the Chargers taking Elijah Vera Tucker, tackle out of USC. Right there in LA. They've seen him a lot. He's a dominant physical presence. He's did a great job for USC. Very good player. I actually don't love him, but I think that he's the type of guy that the Chargers would probably jump on, and he's a pretty talented guy in a pretty stacked tackle class.
Okay, well, since I had to be unbiased and really play the will of the GM as if I am the GM of this team, I had to pick the guy that I most want for the Buffalo Bills here, and I am picking running back Najee Harris from Alabama. I think this is a great fit. They just had kind of a big guy with Melvin Gordon. I think he's better than Melvin Gordon. He also can catch the ball. He's actually an underrated receiver. And he's going to get those short yardage runs. This is wonderful for the Chargers. It's who I want on my team as the Bills. Very excited about Najee Harris, and that's who I am gifting to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I love Najee Harris too. He's a great football player. He is such an, they talk about all around backs and things like that. My goodness, this guy he's just fun to watch. He's always active, he's amazing. So I like him. I don't think they'll take him I don't think he'll be picked in the first round probably, but I'm a huge fan. I really like him.
Okay, the Minnesota Vikings.
I have them taking Christian Darrisaw. Darrisaw is this is a guy that I think very likely will end up being the best tackle from this whole draft. He's physically just dominant, and he's just a really great prospect. He came out of high school, I think, as like a 3-star prospect, so he was pretty unknown. But has just developed into one of the best tackles in the country at the college level. And I think that he's going to be great in the NFL. He can play right or left side. Solid player.
Christian Darrisaw?
That is correct. Yep. And I think that he, Virginia Tech, I think that he is.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I think that he is likely, if this pick is not made, I still think there's a likelihood that they'll go for an offensive lineman, and it'll probably be Elijah Vera Tucker would probably be the next choice, the one the Chargers just took. I think that either one of those could kind of flip-flop either way. I could also see them going for an edge here and maybe taking somebody like Kwity Paye or Aziz or one of those guys. So there's a handful of edges that could possibly be here too.
Yeah, so I'm taking an edge, defensive end. This one's I have him higher than what he's rated, but Jalen Phillips from Miami, defensive end. Dude's a stud, and I think that's where I'm going with the Vikings, the team that has it all.
Beautiful.
So New England Patriots.
I see the Patriots taking Mac Jones here. I think they're just going to sit through it. Nobody else is going to pick him, and I think they will pick him up right here.
Okay. This is where I have Christian Darrisaw going, the offensive tackle for Virginia Tech. I'm not sold on any of these quarterbacks, really, that are left. Obviously, I haven't picked anyone since Zach Wilson. There's quarterbacks left. There's teams that need quarterbacks, and I haven't picked them. And still not going to be picking any quarterbacks for quite a while. Not sold on any of these guys. And I don't think the Patriots are either. I think they would rather suck and get a better quarterback or whatever, and then, have a tackle ready for next year or whatever. But, they need some help on the offensive line, and that's where I take Darrisaw.
Nice.
Next up is the Arizona Cardinals.
I have the Cardinals taking Caleb Farley. So despite the injury concerns, I think that Farley's probably going to be okay. He was widely viewed as probably the best cornerback in the class, with some disagreement as to certain before he announced that he was going to be having surgery. I think the surgery is probably going to turn out to not be that big of a deal, and he's going to move beyond it. But if that isn't the case and his medical doesn't come back clean, I could see them going with someone like Newsome or Asante, right? Samuel, something like that. And or also I could see him going with like Barmore. So
I thought our picks would be wider off than this, but so this is awesome because I was doing this last night and I texted my brother and it was like 1 or 2 in the morning his time, and I figured I'd get his message this morning, but he actually did text me back a little bit later, and I asked him, and my brother thinks a lot like me. He thinks, okay, if I'm the GM, who do I want? He's very logical in thinking about who he really wants on his team, what his team need is, and where he wants to go. And I asked him who he would want. And I'd already made my pick. I just barely made it. And he said the exact person that I picked. So I know I got a good one here. And I picked J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina. I think he's the most intelligent cornerback in the draft, meaning he can make pre-snap reads. You watch him play, and he's always like backing up into where he needs to be, or moving forward, or whatever. Like he knows where the play is going. You can tell, and then he's getting there. I almost feel they said he was. I guess he has okay. I guess he's pretty fast or okay speed, but I almost felt like those pre-snap reads were because he felt like he lacked speed or something. I don't know, but maybe not. But he was always going right where he needed to be, and that was impressive to me. I think he's very intelligent, and yeah, so that's who I'm giving the Cardinals.
yeah,
Make my brother happy.
in my picks, he unfortunately went to the Cardinals' rival, the Cowboys, and so he's gone. But I love J.C. Horn. I do agree with you, but he is actually a burner. I mean, he's a big, strong guy too, and so he has good size for the position. Ran a 4.37 at his pro day, right?
Okay.
I mean, he flies, and I haven't watched much film on him at all. Really, what I have more than anything else is what I've read from other scouts that say that he has bad habits of holding, of grabbing a lot, and it's something that he is likely to get flagged for a lot in the NFL. And I've seen some things pointed out that said that cornerbacks who have habits like this, like particularly this, when they feel they're getting burned, they do a reach out. That it's not easy to coach out of them, and so it can happen. But it is the sort of thing that it wouldn't be surprising to see him be a pretty highly penalized guy early on. But I agree. I love the guy. I think he's a good pick. And I think the Cardinals would be super excited if he fell to them.
I think part of those penalties, though, had to do with him being like getting to the spot at the same time or even before the receiver. And so there's like a collision right there because he's so on you that there's a collision. And I feel like maybe all of his holdings maybe not have really been holdings. They've just been like, they saw him like collide kind of, and they thought they saw a hold or something, you know what I mean? And, I think the NFL officials are, maybe a little bit better at seeing that or not. We'll see. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
But he looks very smart, though. I mean, you can tell he's reading the offense before the play. Oh, so your team, the Las Vegas Raiders.
That's it, man. So yeah, I have the Raiders taking Tevin Jenkins, who probably won't be something that fans are going to be super excited about overall, including myself, right? He's not a name that gets me super excited. But I do think that he is probably right there among the top. I think ultimately his career in the NFL is going to be viewed as one of the best tackles in the NFL. He will be on the right side, not the left. But that's perfect for the Raiders because they do have a good left tackle already, Colton Miller. And so he's a great run blocker and a great pass blocker. I think he'll do a great job. I would be more excited, right, as a Raiders fan. I'd love to see them hope to get a top-level talent at tackle in the second round and instead go with someone like Parsons if they think that his red flag or issues are not that big of a deal. I'm also a big fan of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think both of those guys would be really great. So anyway, and you just mentioned Jalen Phillips a minute ago. He hasn't come up on my board yet, but I love Phillips. I'm a huge fan. I think that he is actually a top level defensive end talent, and is completely separated from the rest of the class in terms of edge. But he does have his concussion issues and some of those other things. And so I could see that holding him back a little bit. It also helps that Jalen Phillips is a Raiders fan. And so that would be awesome to get him for that reason as well. But anyway, so yeah.
Thanks for the like. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. You're going to hate this pick, but you're going to love this pick. So I am, unfortunately for you, I am the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I am, my first small school is coming off of the board from Tulsa. Zaven Collins, outside linebacker. This guy, one word for this man, monster. This guy, last year I talked about Akeem Gaithers, whatever his name is, that went to the Bengals. I said he would be good. He drafted in the 4th round. Sideline to sideline guy, can do it all. He was good. He did have a good year last year. This guy is the same thing, but just better. And, faster, stronger. Just this dude's a monster. Sideline to sideline, can rush the passer, can do everything that you want to do. I think maybe you're not excited about it now, but next year when you see what he did this year, you'll be like, yeah, I would be excited about that.
So I actually don't have him this high on my board, right, in terms of what I think NFL teams think of him. But I agree with you. I think that Zaven Collins is a monster. Actually, if the Raiders drafted him here, I would be totally stoked. He's a guy that it's hard to say what he's going to do in the league because he is different than what we typically see. 6'4", 6'5", 260 pounds. And he ran a little bit slow at his pro day. And that's one of the knocks on him right now. He ran about a 4.6. I think his fastest time was like a 4.59. But he's 6'4", 260 or something like that. So he's the size of a legit defensive end. And so he's maybe an average speed for a linebacker, but he has the measurables that are insane. And he can even put in some time at safety, frankly. So if the Raiders have a plan for him, man, I would love to see them bring him onto the team because I do think he will be a difference maker. I think he is going to be one of the best players from this draft in the long run. And I think he's going to fall because he's untraditional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is falling. No, dude, I think this guy is. He has game speed though. I saw him catching people, going across the whole field, catching people. I don't think his speed's going to be an issue. Maybe he just had a bad day or something.
Here's one of the things that's interesting about him is maybe his burst is not great in 40 yards. Maybe his burst is really a 20-yard burst, which is really all you really need. You know what I mean? Hopefully on a single play. But regardless, he has a massive wingspan. And so he can cover ground in a way and get a hold of people.
Yeah.
They would be out of reach for the typical.
And he can guard a tight end. He can be in the pass as well. He can do it all, man, dude. This he's a monster. Anyways, I think he would be fantastic for the Raiders. I think he's exactly what you guys need. And that's who I would give you guys. The next one is the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, Miami Dolphins. I have them picking Jalen Phillips right here. I think that he probably would have gone earlier off the board. Miami is right there next to him, right? He literally went to school right there, and they got to see him. And if the prior injury issues, the concussions he had and stuff is clearly behind him, I think it would be crazy to let him slide any further. I think he's the kind of guy. Well, here's perspective on it. He was a 5-star recruit, considered probably the best defensive end in the entire country coming out of high school. Had major concussion issues for a couple of years. Retired from football at UCLA. Came back in, transferred to Miami. So he only had one real season after his injuries, and he racks up 15.5 sacks and is the most dominant defensive force that Miami had seen in a couple of years. I mean, he's something.
Yeah. So I have this. For me, this is a weird spot for the Dolphins. Honestly, I wouldn't mind trading out of this pick. I just don't. I don't like this spot for the Dolphins. But the guy I'm going to pick, since I'm not trading out, is Trevon Moehrig, the safety from TCU. This guy reminds me of Jarius Byrd, his rookie year for the Bills, when he had 9 interceptions and he was just all over the place. And then he got that plantar fasciitis or whatever in his foot, and he sucked after that. But, I mean, Jarius Byrd, I mean, if he kept up anywhere close to that pace, he'd be like an Ed Reed or something. I mean, he would have been one of the easy Hall of Famer. And this guy reminds me of Jarius Byrd. In fact, he looks even better than Jarius Byrd coming out of college, to be honest. And just same type of player, in my opinion. Same type of measurables. I mean, almost just like a stamp. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the Dolphins just going to get a playmaker.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good pick. I feel now I don't like the comparisons to Ed Reed because he was a freak of nature. I think that he's at a whole different level, but I love him. I think that he's the very clear best prospect at safety in the draft. I think he's going to be a very good player.
No, I wasn't comparing him. I'm just saying, like, if Jarius Byrd had been able to, yeah, I mean that's a ridiculous thing to expect. I'm just saying, like. That's kind of, you know. Anyways,
Ed Reed
I think the guy. I think he's going to be a great safety.
I do too.
One of the best in a while. Okay. Anyways, next up, the Washington Redskins.
I have Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. They need a wide receiver. I feel like. Bateman is kind of slightly separated from the group of receivers, the 3 that we have talked about, but I think it's more likely than not he's going to be better than most of them. I think he's going to be a very, very good player. He dominated everybody in college at a young age, and I think that Rashad Bateman is going to be a very good receiver. Washington takes him at 19.
Okay. Yeah, that feels like a safe pick. I'm taking the tight end from P State, Pat Freemuth. This guy is very underrated, and he's an absolute stud. So yeah, that's who I'm going with. He's not a good blocker, but they have a good offensive line. They don't really need the blocking. So yeah, that's who I'm going with.
Okay. You said tight end.
Yeah, tight end. Pat Freemuth from P State.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really good. I think in many drafts, he might even go like top 10 just out of tight end need. It just so happens this draft has Kyle Pitts, and I think that caused him to probably drop a bit. It's good.
Yeah. Next up is the Chicago Bears.
This is where I have probably my first, what a lot of people will see as a reach. I have the Bears taking Rondale Moore, a wide receiver out of Purdue. I love Rondale Moore. If I were to rank in the receivers in the class based on who I like the most and who I'm like the most excited to see play, this guy ranks number 1 for me. I love watching this guy play. He reminds me of Steve Smith, and I loved Steve Smith, and I just there are very few players in the history of football who have been successful in the NFL with his size profile, or at least great. Very few that have ever been great with his size profile. So we'll see what happens. But there are things about him, and the rules have changed in such a way that I think it could be the case that Rondale Moore ends up being just one of the great receivers in the NFL within a couple of years. Wouldn't surprise me if he was the best receiver in the NFL out of this class, despite how great of a class it is.
Yeah, obviously Steve Smith's one of my favorite all-time players. I don't like comparisons to Steve Smith because no one that small will ever be as physical as Steve Smith. When Steve Smith, one of his last years on the Ravens, I'll never forget him just grabbing that dude's face mask and just throwing him to the ground and then running for a touchdown. It was one of my favorite plays. And he was old at the time. I mean, no, there's never going to be a Steve Smith that small, that fast, and that physical that would just maul you. Oh, man, I love Steve Smith. But, yeah, I mean, he has his injury concerns, and he's small, and we'll see what happens with him. But, yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit for a guy like that.
I mean, he is one thing I do like about him, you look at this dude with his shirt off, and he looks like a boxer. I mean, he is a little tank. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So the Bears, they need some protection. So I'm giving them Elijah Vera Tucker, guard tackle out of USC. He played both in college. I think he's likely a guard who can be a tackle if needed in the NFL. He gives a lot of versatility. He might even be able to play center. I mean, he can just, if there's injuries, he can move around. That's always really important. Yeah, I mean the Bears they need it so bad. And then I mean, give Allen Robinson some time, man. That guy's so good. Yeah, so I mean I'm gonna give them some protection. The Indiana, go ahead.
Yeah, the Indianapolis Colts. I am taking Azeez Ojulari. I think that he's going to be a very good. I think he's going to be a good edge in the NFL. I'm not in love with this edge class very much, frankly. But this guy, he had a really, really great final few games of the season. He was okay before that. His stats jump off the page, very impressive. And so I think he's going to be very good. It feels to me like a lot of the edges look like the others. I kind of like him because of the production that I saw near the end. And he also, of course, has the stats. Very fast, very big, very strong.
Okay, I have kind of a surprise pick here. I have running back Michael Carter out of North Carolina. He's a speed running back. He can return kicks. He can play slot receiver. He did. He actually went out and played slot receiver a lot. He's behind the best of, maybe the best offensive line in football. Wentz is already used to having those shifty little guys that he throws to and stuff like that from the Eagles. You give him a lane, dude, so fast. I think he's a great, great fit. And I loved watching him at North Carolina. And, so that's a lot of people have the other North Carolina running back ahead of him, but I like this guy. I've always thought that this guy was the better running back and the better prospect. And I'm going with Michael Carter. Little surprise pick, running back for the Colts.
Yeah, that's would definitely be a surprise. I'm a fan, though. I think I don't think he gets picked very early, frankly, but I agree. He's a talent.
Okay, next up is the Tennessee Titans.
I have Greg Newsome II here. So I think that he and really I'll just tell you right now. So I have the Titans, Greg Newsome II, and then next I have the Jets, Asante Samuel Jr. And so these guys, they're different cornerbacks, but there are a lot of similarities. I have them ranked very similar to each other. You could flip-flop them in terms of where they're likely to be drafted. But yeah, I have the Titans taking Greg Newsome II.
Okay. I This is where I have Devontae Smith. Adding speed to this team is a pretty scary idea, and yeah, so I'm throwing Devontae Smith right here. A guy that can get open too. I think he needs extra time to get open, and they have an offensive line that can give that time. And yeah, I like Devontae Smith here. I know he's fast, so I don't mean like that he's not fast or anything. I just mean like I feel like he needs time to kind of break away. I feel like he's not quite shifty enough to get from away from some of these cornerbacks in the NFL. And so you give him a little time, and his speed will take over, and they won't be able to guard him. So I like that on that team.
I think it's a beautiful fit for Tannehill. I mean, I think that would be unbelievable, and I think Tannehill would be the happiest dude in the world if they were able to get Smith.
Okay, and then so you said for the Jets you had
Asante Samuel Jr.
Asante Samuel, right?
So for me, I actually rank Asante Samuel Jr. higher than well, I have him pretty close to J.C. Horn, but I get the sense that that's not how people view it, or how the front offices are viewing it. So yeah. So anyway, I'm going to the Jets here.
So the Jets. First pick, I chose Kyle Trask. And we are going to get this offense rolling with a do-it-all wide receiver, Kadarius Toney from Florida. We got the quarterback from Florida. We got the wide receiver from Florida. We are getting this offense going. Jets. Unless you're a Jets fan, then it's Jest. Anyways, go Jets. And there you go. I got the quarterback and his receiver. And now we got something cooking over here in New York.
I'm not so Kadarius Toney was phenomenal in college, and he just cooked everybody. And he'll do that in the NFL too, to some degree. Kind of a tiny little dude. I feel like other people are more high on him than I am in terms of an NFL prospect. But
yeah, that's fine. The Steelers.
Yeah, so the Steelers at 24 is where the massive slide for Micah Parsons ends. The Steelers take Micah Parsons. He is not a critical, like linebacker is not necessarily a critical need. Of course, they could have him playing on the edge as well. He's an absolute freak talent, top 10 talent, no question. I think the red flags are actually going to cause him to slide a bit in this draft, and I'm not sure if it's a good reason or bad reason for him to slide. I can tell you as somebody, from the Raiders, we once a few years ago we drafted a linebacker who was the clear best linebacker in the NFL, who had some off the field issues, and he was off the Raiders in two or 3 years, and then off the Cowboys about 2 or 3 years after that, and out of the league. So the Micah Parsons felt a little too much like that for me. So even though I was a big fan of his and I was hoping the Raiders would get him if he slipped to them, I was kind of I'm not so sure given the red flags I've heard about. Nevertheless, he is too talented. The Steelers are not going to pass up, and they also don't have apparently as big of a problem with people engaging in shenanigans as some other teams do.
So, would you rather have Parsons or my linebacker that I gave you?
I will tell you, I'd rather have Zaven Collins, honestly, particularly with the red flags. I mean, I think Parsons is a more clear-cut prospect, but man, Zaven Collins, if Mike Mayock and John Gruden believe Zaven Collins is going to be really good and they pick him at 17, I will be thrilled.
That really like a Mayock pick.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, I think wasn't he named the top defensive player in college football last year? I think he was. I think he got that award.
Yeah.
Zaven Collins, and here's I read the list of the players who had received that same award that Zaven Collins just got last year, and the list is a bunch of Hall of Famers. Like it would not shock me if he was great, and he'd be somebody I'd be very excited about.
Okay. Steelers. So this is where I have Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, Northwestern. Like you said, he shut down Chase Young a couple years ago. Um, and Steelers, the Steelers need they don't just need protection for Big Ben now. They need protection for the quarterback they're going to be drafting soon. And again, I'm not sold on any of these guys even as developmental quarterbacks to put behind him. So I'm going to start preparing for the shift, and also it's also what I need at the moment too. So I'm going to take that offensive tackle.
Nice. I
Um,
like it.
next up is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I have the Jags taking Trevon Moehrig. So the top safety in the draft. The Jaguars have a history of taking good safeties. They have an eye for good defensive backs, and I think they take him here. Other options, I think if Vera Tucker or Darisaw were to fall to the Jags here, I think they probably would take one of them instead. But I think that the tackles that remain pose a little bit more risk. So I think they're going to wait to get that blindside tackle until the next round. So I think that they continue to leave Trevor Lawrence without the blindside protector, and they take Trevon here.
Okay, this is where I have Greg Newsome, the second cornerback. Northwestern goes back-to-back picks. And what I have on this guy is he's legit. And he also played in the same conference as Urban Meyer in the Big Ten. So Urban Meyer already knows this guy. And if I just had one word, I'll repeat it: legit. For Greg Newsome, the second.
Sounds good.
The next one is the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, so I have Cleveland taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. This is, again, I think this is a little bit of a fall for him. He's an interesting player. He's a little bit of a gadget player. He's not big. He's kind of a small linebacker, but, man, he hits hard. I don't think that he has blazing speed. My guess is he's probably in the 4.5 range, which is still very fast, obviously. But for a player that's 220 pounds or so, or 230 pounds, it's his speed is probably very good, but not elite. But man, he knows how to play. Good player, could sit in the slot, can play outside linebacker, can even be brought up to the edge. And so good all-around player. Browns will be thrilled to have him, I think. This is somebody that I've had my eye on for the Raiders that I would love to have the Raiders add as a possibility too. So he's somebody that's been kind of high on my list.
Well, I got the same guy, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, or whatever you say, from Notre Dame. My notes on him are that he's kind of small for his position, but I think he can fit well with the Browns because they have so much talent on their defense. If you be creative with him, he can help in pass rush. He can be a linebacker / cornerback / safety / roamer. Just a guy that, like, I think you need to use him creatively, but he kind of feels like an extra piece out there that you can have because I don't like him on just like a team that needs that position. I like him on the Browns because they don't necessarily need that, and they have so much talent already that you can just use him to wherever you want to spy or do different things with. And I just like the possibilities here. I mean, just get creative with this guy, and I think he's going to make some big plays for you, get some interceptions, and some sacks, maybe some fumbles. Who knows? But I mean, I just I would be excited to have him, and I think if I was the Browns coach, and I mean, I just think you got to be real creative with this guy, but I think it's the right fit for that team. So, bravo, we had the same one.
Only the second time today, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is the Baltimore Ravens.
I am taking Terrace Marshall Jr. Out of LSU. He was probably viewed more as a second or third round prospect until his pro day. He ran like a 4.38, 4.39, something like that, blazing speed. He's more of a possession receiver, but he also has this blazing speed. And I just think, I mean, he's a do-it-all guy. He's a guy that can do it all, I think, but he's I think that he probably moves into the first round after his pro day, and I think the Ravens take him over a guy like Kadarius Toney, for example, because they want somebody who can be a safety valve for their erratically throwing quarterback.
Yeah, so here I have the Ravens. I think they need more protection. I'm taking Tevin Jenkins from the offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. He projects as a left tackle. I think he's more of a right tackle or guard. He's nasty. He can probably play anywhere on the line as well. He's very versatile. And so if you have any kind of injuries or anything like that, again, he's a guy you can move around. And yeah, I think Tevin Jenkins is going to fit well in that offense.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. If Tevin Jenkins is still there at that point, I think it's a no-brainer for the Ravens to take him. They specifically need a right tackle, and even though he has the versatility to probably play anywhere with a little bit of practice, he played right tackle all through college, and so
he played left tackle in college too.
Oh, did he? Well, he may have
Yeah.
alternated in, but he was primarily right tackle for Oklahoma State.
No,
And,
his last year he was left tackle the whole year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he started as a right tackle. He moved to left tackle later on.
So was it the first 2 years he was right, and then the last year he was left? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
they don't
projects as a left tackle, but I think again, I think his nastiness portrays more as the right tackle or guard.
Yeah, I think he's more likely to play right tackle in the NFL. But the Ravens need a right tackle. They do not need a left tackle, and they literally just traded their left tackle or their former right tackle because he insisted on playing left, and they had two high level left tackles.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's the other reason why I'm drafting him here, because they needed to replace who they just traded.
Yeah.
Okay, so the New Orleans Saints.
I haven't taken so I'm probably going to butcher his name, Jamin Davis.
I knew you were going to pick him.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan. I think he's going to be a great player. He has jump off the page measurables, super fast, super strong, hits like a truck, great reads, really good linebacker. I actually like Zaven Collins quite a bit more personally, but I am just hearing everywhere that Jamin Davis is just flying up the boards. So,
yeah, I have the same. Again, I have Jamin Davis. It's Jamin Davis out of inside back out of Kentucky. Yeah, I mean, they need an inside linebacker more than an outside rush guy, anyways. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a great fit for him right here, and it's something that they need right there. Okay, so the Green Bay Packers.
Kadarius Toney. This is where he gets picked. He's a freak athlete. I don't think that the Packers can get away with not giving help to Aaron Rodgers like they did last year. There have been some, and so I think they're going to take one of the receivers. There are still a number of high-end receivers here. And I think Kadarius Toney is a very good fit for Aaron Rodgers. Having a quarterback that just knows what he's doing and a receiver with ridiculous talent that needs a lot of polish, it seems like a good fit.
Yes, I have the perfect fit here. Terrence Marshall Jr. from LSU. Deceptively fast, runs fluid like A.J. Green. He looks like a gazelle when he runs. You can't tell he's running fast as he is because of the way he runs. He looks like he's running slow, but he's running so fast. He's tall. He has a long reach. He does have one problem: drop passes. He's dropped a lot of passes in college, so that's the one knock on him. But and the other crazy thing is they already have Devontae Adams, who he's their guy that goes over the top and everything. This guy can get inside and outside, and he's just so fast. He just grabs that ball and he's gone. And perfect fit right there for Aaron Rodgers. Terrence Marshall Jr. from LSU.
I like it. Okay, now the Bills are on the board, my man. So
Yes,
Bills
sir.
number 30. So I have the Bills taking Kwity Paye. And I think that he's he's just a freak athlete. I think that he is somebody that has just been projected to go much higher than this over and over again. And I could see the Bills grabbing him here. It feels like kind of a natural fit there. The other option that I could see them going with would be to go with Barmore. So those would be the two people that I would project here, given the way that it's fallen out so far.
Yeah, if either of those guys were still on the board, I would still take this guy. And this is going to sound like a reach, but not in my mind. I've watched this guy play, and I'm a huge fan of him. Defensive end from Miami, Gregory Rousseau, 6'7", Rousseau, 6'7", runs a 4.7. He can play inside and outside. Jason Pierre-Paul type. If he hadn't have opted out this year, I think he would be a top 5 pick. He had 15 and a half sacks 2 years ago for Miami. The dude's a oh my goodness. He has so much upside. Yeah, I mean, he can play all over, and that's what we need. And yeah, that's what I'm taking that as a steal.
No, and Rousseau early on was projected to go in the top, 15, and he's fallen as people have watched his tape. So he did have all those sacks. I actually thought it was more than that. I thought it was like 18. But regardless, his sacks were apparently none of them were traditional sacks where you come around the edge or you fake out your person. They were incredibly, basically all of them were cleanup sacks. And he just was the guy to get there to clean it up. And it wasn't based on traditional, getting around the edge to the quarterback or anything like that. So that's been kind of the knock on him. But he is an absolute freak athlete. Reminds me a little bit of like Ziggy Ansah. If you remember him coming out of BYU, he was drafted number 4 or 5 overall. And so I watched him, and he was just this monster on the line that didn't know how to do anything, right? And so he didn't really have much of a skill set, but he was just a physical beast. And he ended up having a good career, at least. I mean, he got double-digit sacks at least a couple of years for the Lions. Turned out to be a good defensive end. So I could see Rousseau doing something like that, even better.
Yeah, and we have the defensive coordinator for the job as well. So,
I like it.
Baltimore Ravens.
The Ravens, I have them taking Jason Owe from Penn State. So he's an edge. The Ravens need an edge. They need to replace the edge they lost. It's interesting. He had a no production. I mean, no sacks, just really, really a low producing guy, but all of the physical measurables and around the ball and stuff. And if you go back historically, there have been a few people with similar measurables and a similar production profile that have turned out to be great NFL players. So just because his production looks really bad, because it does, frankly, he has all the potential of being a legit, very good player. So
the guy,
we'll see.
Did you say the guy from Texas?
No. This is Jason Owe from Penn State.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So Baltimore Ravens. I have the 31st pick is where we're at. I have Elijah Moore, wide receiver from Ole Miss. He's a burner. I think but not only that, he's a safety net. Out of 200 passes in college, he only dropped 10. And so he goes over the middle. He's small and speedy, but he's very tough. Again, I don't want to say it, but Steve Smith, I guess you could say, in a way. And he can also be used in the option because he's so fast with Lamar. They could throw him in, they could do an end around with him or throw him in the option or something like that. And I think he fits so well. And then also, again, he doesn't drop the ball. So he's a great safety net that can just kind of drop in coverage. Boom, he's right there. And, just let him run. And I think also he can be a punt returner and stuff. So I just think he fits what they're trying to do at the Ravens.
Love the pick. Agree with everything you said.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The last pick of the first round.
Yeah, I have Christian Barmore. Tampa Bay taking Christian Barmore here. They don't have a lot of needs. This is kind of a need, not a huge need. And Barmore, I think, is he showed flashes of extreme talent at times right there in the college football playoffs, basically, and average talent throughout most of the season last year. So it's hard to know exactly what Christian Barmore is going to be. I think he's going to take an adjustment period of a couple of years in the NFL, but I think that he's a high-level talent, and I see Tampa Bay taking him here. I definitely could see other options such as Rousseau, Zaven Collins, or one of many cornerbacks or safeties. So,
yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, when you get the team that has it all, right? They just won the Super Bowl. But once you get the guy that has it all, something flashy, something he can play with. So I'm giving them Amari Rodgers, wide receiver from Clemson. And here's the one knock on him. He needs to get better at the short and intermediate routes. Who better to help him with that than Tom Brady, the king of short and intermediate routes, the guys like Julian Edelman and Wes Welker and that, right? So that's the one thing he's got to work on. Tom Brady will make sure he works on that. And he's got the speed and everything else. And Brady, I'm sure he's getting older. He needs those shorter routes. He needs that kind of guy on the team. And there you have it, Amari Rodgers, Clemson. I think it's a great fit.
I like it. Yeah, that works. Okay, round two.
Round two, first pick, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, Elijah Moore. You already talked about him. I agree with all of that. I think that we provide that for Trevor Lawrence. He gets an excellent receiver right off the bat.
Awesome. Good pick. Yeah, here I have Richie Grant, safety from UCF. And again, I just feel like they need a safety in the back end. I mean, let's see. Let's see. Jacksonville, let's see. So I gave them Trevor Lawrence. They picked the second time, right? Yeah. Then I gave them some cornerback help with Newsome. And now I'm giving them some additional safety, cornerback, secondary help here with Richie Grant from UCF. You know me. I like the little schools. I watch the little schools. And this guy, he's a baller. And, I think he'll fit with them well. Plus, he's from Florida, so he'll sell some tickets maybe. Okay, so the New York Jets. Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, who'd you say for that? Oh, yeah, Elijah Wood. Okay, the Jets. Back on the clock.
Greg Rousseau. So we've already talked about him for all the same reasons. I think that he fits their timeline because I don't think he's going to be good for a couple of years, honestly. But I think that in maybe year 3, you're going to start to have, if he develops the way people would hope, he could become one of the best edges in the league, frankly, in terms of his measurables and talent level.
All right, so this is me. I'm running up to the commissioner as fast as I can. I'll probably trip over something. I'm running so fast. I've got Kyle Trask. I've got his receiver. We are turning this offense up some more. I'm taking Hunter Long, tight end from Boston College. This guy was used more than any tight end throughout his career. I mean, he was targeted like 100 times or something last year or something like that. Maybe not that many, but an enormous amount. He had like 56. Well, it couldn't have been that high, but I think he had like 56 catches or something last year. Constantly was in the offense. He's already Um, I mean, he's locked and loaded. Just put him out there, and he'll play. And he's gonna catch passes, and he's gonna get open. And he's already knows what he needs to do to be a good tight end.
Top level blocker too. Really good blocking tight end.
Yeah, he can block, and that's the other thing about him. They need blocking on their offensive line. I think they need some additional blocking so they can use him when they need to as a helper in the blocking, and then he can. Man, I mean, he's perfect. I like the way this Jets team is shaping up. Okay, the Atlanta Falcons.
The third pick of the second round, Falcons take Zaven Collins. And this is where his drop stops. I think this might be perhaps the best value pick, at least on my imperfect mock draft. I mean, we've said what we have to say about him, I guess. But yeah, what a value.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have two Deion Joneses on their team now. Okay, so yeah, I mean that's a scary linebacker core right there. I'm going a little different. I am going with running back Travis Etienne from Clemson. I think he just needs. They need someone to, they need that Marshall Faulk type to kind of take the pressure off of Julio Jones and some of those deeper passes. He can go out the pass. The other thing is they play in a dome, which is going to fit his style. I think it's a great fit for that offense. And Travis Etienne, that's my pick for the Falcons.
Very nice.
Okay, Miami Dolphins.
So here I have the Dolphins taking Alex Leatherwood. They could take any number of the tackles that remain on the board. They need to get somebody to provide some pass protection for Tua. Anyway, I have him taking Alex Leatherwood here. And he's not my favorite of the tackles that are left, but I do think that I think he's going to be a good pro, not a great pro. And so I have Dolphins picking him here.
Okay, I have this is where I have Azeez Ojulari or whatever, defensive end from Georgia. He's a pass rusher. He is not, his biggest weakness is he does not play the pass. He's not good at playing the pass. But the Dolphins have plenty of people that can play the pass. So I think that they could make up for that and just let that guy pin his ears back and pass rush. So Azeez from Georgia.
Very nice. So Eagles at number 37, I have them taking Kelvin Joseph, cornerback out of Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. He has enough length. He's very fast. Has some really nice tape. I didn't watch a lot of him, frankly, but I think that he's going to be a good corner.
Yeah, I love him actually. So the next one for the Eagles, I'm taking Jabril Cox, inside linebacker from LSU. I think he can do it all, and I think he's going to be even better in the NFL than he was in college.
Very nice.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking Walker Little, finally providing some pass protection for their quarterback. Walker Little is actually kind of one of my personal favorites in the draft. He didn't play at all last year. He was at Stanford. And even the year before that, he didn't really play because he had a serious injury. So he only played a little bit. But he was already probably a first or second round draft prospect by his second year at Stanford, or maybe even by his first year. He was a top level tackle at Stanford. He's just now been away from it for a couple of years. He was also a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He's also like 6'8" and gigantic. And so I think that Walker Little is probably going to be one of those guys that has like a 13 to 15 year NFL career and is just a thumper on the offensive line, better at pass protection than at run blocking, but still good at run blocking. Anyway, so he's one of the gems in the draft that I think probably will get drafted in the first round, honestly, because I think that people know about him and the scouts have really looked at it. He did have a pro day and he ran like a 4.8 something 40, which is ridiculous for a guy his size. And so athletically, he is plenty athletic, as well as being huge and everything else. So I'm a huge fan of this guy.
What school is he from?
Stanford.
Oh, right, you said that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So the Bengals, I already gave them some pass protection, so now I'm going to give them the other running back from North Carolina, Javonte Williams. He's a bruiser type. He's super productive, and that's actually going to kind of give them some more protection in a sense because a good running game can help your pass rush and stuff like that. So Javonte Williams from North Carolina, and also he's gonna get the short yardage plays cleaned up. So
very nice.
The Carolina Panthers.
I am taking De'Ami Brown, burner, very talented wide receiver out of North Carolina.
Okay.
They need a receiver badly. This is the guy that I had marked as probably the best guy left on my board among receivers, so I have him going here.
Yeah, I mean, I also have a receiver, but I have Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. I know he might not last this long, but he did on my board, and so that's who I'm taking.
Beautiful.
The Denver Broncos.
So I have the Denver Broncos making a significant reach here for a quarterback, and I have the Denver Broncos taking Davis Mills from Stanford. And so if they didn't go that way, I could see him taking a linebacker, Collins, Bolton, Davis, if one of those guys were available. But I have them doing a reaching up to get a guy who's really moving up draft boards right now. He has some of the most impressive accuracy numbers. He was also considered the number one recruit out of all college players in 2017. And so I think the Broncos jump and take him. He has only played, I think, 11 games in college total. And so there's very little film on him, but what there is does look pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a quintessential John Elway pick. Big guy, same school, everything. So, yeah, I mean, this is very possible. The Denver Broncos, I have Christian Barmore, defensive tackle from Alabama here. I don't have a lot to say about it. Just, that's who I have him picking. Next up is the Detroit Lions.
I have the Lions taking Joseph Asai. He was the top edge left on my board. There's some very kind of weird things about Osai in terms of his. He was lined up in very, very weird structures when he was there. He has really good measurables. There's reason to think that he might be a very good, outside rushing linebacker or end. We'll see. There's some talent there for sure.
Yeah. Here, this is a fit for you right here. They desperately need a center. The Lions do. So I'm taking Landon Dickerson from Alabama. The coach came out in his press conference talking about, they knock us down, we bite off their kneecaps and all this stuff. Well, this guy tore his ACL, came back into the national championship game to do the final snap. And from what I hear, he's already doing cartwheels. So not only do they desperately need a center, this guy is exactly the kind of guy that they're talking about. And so Landon Dickerson from Alabama, and I think that's a great pick too.
I do too. I like your pick better than mine. And the Lions probably would too. So
New York Giants.
I have them taking Carlos Basham Jr. Good edge. I don't really love him, honestly. He seems to be higher on almost everybody's board than he is on mine. But the Giants, there are things to like about him. He's not one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I have this is why I picked Joseph Osai, one pick after you. Uh, yeah, I mean basically everything you said, defensive tackle slash outside linebacker for Texas. Um, this is a need possession for him, and also I mean it's really the best person available for them, I think. So that's why I have the Giants going. Next up is the 49ers.
I have the 49ers taking Pat Freiermuth, who you took earlier. I think that he'll be a really good tight end in the league, maybe a great tight end in the league. So,
yeah, from the one from Penn State, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is where I have. This is a reach, or this would be considered a reach, I think. But running back from Buffalo, Jarrett Patterson. For a lot of the reasons I talked about with the Colts, great offensive line, give this guy the space he needs. He's a burner. He fits their offense. He can get out, catch passes. I think he's actually pretty good even in short yardage. And so, yeah, I think that's a good fit for them. And so I'm taking Jarrett Patterson, who I think is totally underrated on these boards. I think it's ridiculous. So, yeah, Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo.
Yeah, the guy's incredibly smart. I don't have him going in the first 2 rounds. He probably is more like a 4th or 5th round prospect, but he is absolutely just has tremendous vision, tremendous anticipation, just a really, really sharp dude. And obviously he had that record-setting game, last year. But man, I agree with you. I love this guy.
Okay, so the Cowboys.
I have the Cowboys taking Travis Etienne. He is who he's my number 1 running back in this draft. In terms of a traditional running back, I personally like Najee Harris more because of just his all-around capabilities are so refined. They're so far out there, so advanced. But Travis Etienne is faster, has great. There are a lot of things about Etienne that I really like, and I think that he probably goes first. But who knows? And I have the Cowboys taking him here. Not a need position. It's just that he's lasted so long. I think that the Cowboys just take him, even though they don't need him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a weird spot for the Cowboys. They could do a lot of things here. They could trade out. They could do a lot of things. This is the one that I'm taking. This is a very risky pick, I think, but I think it's worth the risk to see if they hit on it. And I'm taking Brevin Jordan, the tight end out of Miami. Guy can't block with a lick, but super athletic, can catch the ball, and I mean this guy could be a super hit, or he could be a complete bust. But yeah, I mean I think it's worth the risk for that team, and they need that type of a guy right here. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I was hoping people wouldn't really notice him because there were some people that didn't even have him on their list of like 300 or 400 people, in the draft, and early on, right? It looks like people are catching on. I think that he is. I would be shocked if he went in the top 3 rounds, but after that, I think that he's a talented guy. So, I mean, his measurables are pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, they are. Patriots.
No, we have
Jaguars.
Jaguars,
my bad.
So I have the Jags taking Jackson Carman, tackle, who has previously been the tackle for Trevor Lawrence. I think this is probably about where he gets picked. He could go a little bit lower than this. There are some other tackles available they could go with instead. A number of them, for example, Jalen Mayfield, or it could be Radunz, Cosme, Christensen. Those are other options, but here or Liam Eichenberg, whatever, however you say that. But I am taking Jackson Carman.
Yeah, and this one I have defensive tackle slash defensive end. He's a little small for defensive tackle, but he works. From Washington, Levi Onowuki or whatever. So I feel like that's a good pick for them, and they can move him around. He can play defensive tackle, and he might even be able to play defensive end. So, I just think that's so much value right there for them.
Nice.
And it's another guy I think Urban Meyer will be. Not that that matters because I'm just drafting for me, not for anyone else. But which was very hard because sometimes I'm like, well, who would they pick? And then I'm like, no, it's got to be who I would pick. But yeah, but in addition to that, it's also another guy that he's familiar with, and so it makes sense that way too. But the Patriots.
I have the Patriots taking Eric Stokes. He's actually pretty high on my board. I think he's going to be a very, very good cornerback in the draft. He is wicked fast, has good size. I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, no, I have a real shocker right here. I have the next possible quarterback for the New England Patriots, Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. I have them picking him. He's been in a pro-style offense for 4 years. He's gotten better every year. I do know that he is fascinated with guys that can run as well. And he's a guy that he can reason with, he can talk to. And I think that he gives Kellen Mond a try right here. He can either start him or put him behind Cam Newton or whatever. If he doesn't think it's going to work out, it's no big deal. He'll draft a quarterback next year. Also, I feel like he's super desperate. So I just feel like this is the guy he would choose. And so actually this might be the one and only pick that I'm not actually picking for who I might pick. But I wouldn't necessarily – you know what, this probably would be who I would pick, to be honest. Because I just think – again, I think this is the right situation, the right time. Let's see if this guy works out, and if not, I'll just try again next year. So,
nice.
The Los Angeles Chargers.
I have them taking Tyson Kimball, Eric Stokes' teammate and other cornerback from Georgia. One going right after the other. This is another guy who has good enough size, blazing speed, was a top-notch cornerback in college. I think both of these guys are going to be very good. So I have the Chargers taking Tyson Kimball. And it's a need for the Chargers. They need another cornerback, and so it's a perfect fit.
So here I have Jason Owen, defensive end, outside linebacker from P State. So again, it's a need. There's a lot of value, and the kid can play. So the Raiders.
Great. Yeah, the Raiders. So I have the Raiders taking Richie Grant, which is a pick that I think is likely. He's probably the second or third highest regarded safety in the draft. I could see them, but frankly, I have him at a very similar grade to about 5 other guys. That's the reality for me. So Richie Grant is who I think is probably the most likely pick. I could see them going with somebody like Molden instead, who's more of a cornerback, but a slot corner, which they could use. And I think Molden is just a player. I think he's just a really good player. And I could also see them going with Melifonwu. I think that's how you pronounce his name, something like that, as a corner, or one of the other. Yeah, I mean, and there are other safeties that I think are potentially very good as well. So Javon Holland, some of these guys that kid out of Syracuse. Anyway, there are some really good options there at safety, and the Raiders probably take a safety there. That's probably their greatest need, and the level of the player is probably about there too.
Well, last year I told you about a small school kid out of Louisiana Tech named L'Jarius Sneed, who ended up being one of the probably the best one of I don't know. He was an amazing rookie for the Chiefs this last year when he wasn't hurt. Phenomenal player. He played corner for them, and then he went his last year or two. He played safety for him, but I knew he would transfer back to corner in the NFL. That's what he did. It's fantastic. This guy projects, and you guys missed him by one pick, and you got the other guy who I also like, Amik Robertson. Hasn't panned out yet, but I still got hope for that guy. But you're not gonna miss L'Jarius Sneed by one pick this year, because this year you're getting Kelvin Joseph, cornerback from Kentucky. And this guy, you talk about possibly needing a safety. I believe that this guy could play safety for you as well if you wanted him to. He's a lot like L'Jarius Sneed, and I think that he's going to be a great fit for you. And I already know that you like him, so because you liked him earlier. And so Kelvin Joseph from Kentucky to the Raiders.
Very nice. I'd be very satisfied with either of those outcomes. And you were right, L'Jarius Sneed. That was a phenomenal recognition part. I think he was considered probably to be the best cornerback out of the draft, coming out of the 4th round. So
yeah. And that 4th round, I still say might be the best round for that last year. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals.
I have the Cards taking Najee Harris. It's something that they need. They can certainly use somebody like this, but I think that he will be a phenomenal playmaker for that team, and I can't imagine them passing on him in the 2nd round.
No, I also can't imagine him lasting this long.
I think it's very unlikely as well. I agree.
So funny that you just brought this guy up too. Arizona Cardinals, I don't know if my brother will like this or not, but I am giving them a nickel cornerback that always has the knack of being in the right place. Cornerback from Washington, Elijah Molden. Great player. He's the nickel guy, I think, on your team, but you're always in the nickel, basically. And if he had to be in the regular package, he could be. But I think he's more of the nickel guy. And, I mean, you need a good nickel guy. I mean, that's so underrated. So, yeah.
I love Molden. His measurables are not awesome. They're okay.
He's like 5'10", but...
Yeah, and he's 5'10", has kind of short arms too. But man, he just looks like a football player. I mean, he is out there making things happen constantly. It's hard to imagine how he's not going to be an impact player at the next level, just because how you said, I mean, always in the right place at the right time. You know, those kind of players, it doesn't seem to be coincidence. They seem to know how to be in the right place, and he's really one of my top guys on the list for that. He has
a way of I think he has this way of baiting guys where he looks like he's out of position and then boom, he's back in position. Anyways, so the Miami Dolphins.
I have the Dolphins taking Landon Dickerson here. You already talked about him. I agree with you about everything. I just think that he's good.
Yeah, I don't think they need a center, but
he can play center or guard, and he's a phenomenal guard too. So he can shift to either one. I agree with you that center is probably the best need, but I think he's also probably the best guard. I think he's going to be great in either slot.
So here I have another reach, I guess, or surprise pick, you might say, for the Dolphins. Running back out of Mississippi State, Kylan Hill, short yardage guy, the best short yardage guy probably in the draft. Well, other than probably Najee Harris. They need somebody to get into the end zone from the 2-yard line and 4th and inches and stuff like that. And I think it's a good fit. It's somebody that they need. So Kylan Hill, and I think he's way underrated too, like for what they have him on the boards. So Mississippi State, the guy was so productive, absolute monster in college.
Nice.
Next up, the Redskins.
I have the Redskins taking Kellen Mond. So I don't know if this is a reach. He's probably considered a second or third round guy, most likely. And he's moving up draft boards, a lot of good things. Apparently, so his numbers on accuracy were very, very bad. But he has all the physical tools that he looks like he could be a monster. But I've read some things lately that his testing has actually been really good, that he was really phenomenal at like the Senior Bowl workouts or whatever it was, So whatever it is, there are some indicators apparently that he looks like he might not have the accuracy issues that people have thought he has. So I could see him going second round, and they need a quarterback.
Yeah, I think his accuracy is blown out of proportion. So I guess you probably don't hate my Patriots pick there so much then.
No, I don't mind.
So I have for the Redskins, I have Ifeatu Melifonwu, whatever, the cornerback out of Syracuse. I think this dude's super underrated, and he has every measurable you want for a cornerback. And I mean, what a good fit for the Redskins there.
I agree. I could see him going anywhere from late first round all the way through the third round at some point, And so, yeah. but I agree with you. Like, he's a first round talent, certainly in terms of his measurables and what we've seen from him. I don't know why he doesn't get more press than he does.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, Chicago Bears.
I have the Bears taking Liam Eichenberg. There are a few other tackles that could go here. They really need a tackle. Didn't allow blindside, tackle, didn't allow a sack in the last 2 seasons. Anyway, I really like him. Okay. The knock on him is that he's not super athletic, is what they say. But I mean, didn't allow a sack against really good defensive ends for 2 years. So.
Okay, so here for the Bears, I also have offensive line. I have Alex Leatherwood, the guard out of Alabama.
A tackle out of Alabama.
Well, I think he's a guard.
Oh, you think at the next level he'll be a guard? I think he'll be a tackle, but I hear you.
Okay. Next up, the Tennessee Titans again.
Yeah, so I have the Titans taking Brady Christensen out of BYU. He was an All-American tackle, and he was viewed as kind of a fourth or fifth round draft pick for a while until his pro day. And then at his pro day, he ran like a 4.8 something 40. And then he had the longest broad jump in the history of the combine for an offensive lineman. He's freakishly athletic. He's a very good tackle. Was Zach Wilson's tackle. Nobody came close to touching him. I think that he'll probably end up going in the second round at this point.
Yeah, I have a guy that you absolutely love for the Titans here. Rondale Moore, wide receiver from Purdue. Oh, no, wait, the Titans, right? Okay.
Yep.
And potential lightning in a bottle if he can stay healthy. That's my comments on him.
Yeah.
So, and what you said before, too. So
I would be mad at the Raiders if he was available at 48 and they didn't pick him. I mean, I love Dale Moore. He's my guy in this draft.
Okay, Colts.
Okay, the Colts, I have them picking Samuel Cosmi, big tackle, possibly a guard in the pros, but big tackle out of Texas. Mahler. Don't love him, honestly, as a prospect, but he's going to be drafted in the first couple of rounds almost for sure. And there is some serious upside there.
Yeah, I know you're going to like this pick right here. For the Colts, I have Carlos Basham Jr., defensive end, outside linebacker from Wake Forest. I mean, just fit, man. He just fits with that team, especially right here. So it's great value.
Yeah, it feels like a good fit.
Next one is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So I have my fourth offensive tackle in a row here with Dylan Raduns. He very much like Brady Christensen. At his pro day, he exhibited ridiculous athleticism that probably propelled him from being maybe a fourth or fifth round pick to now being viewed as probably a second or third round pick. So I have the Steelers taking him here.
And what was the pick again?
Dylan Raduns, offensive tackle out of North Dakota State.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so here for the Steelers, I have, this is another one I think is just ridiculous how low people think he is. So I guess it's a reach for me again. But my style, if I was a GM, like I wouldn't really care about the reach if it was the guy, if it was the guy I wanted. So, anyways, Chuba Hubbard from running back from Oklahoma State. That's who I'm giving. The Steelers, they need a running back, and I gave him a better offensive line earlier. I'm going to give him this guy, and I think he can do big things with this team. So
nice.
And this is where I end. I ran out of steam. I didn't get everything done. This took me much longer than I thought it was going to take me. Obviously, I'm not just projecting. I'm putting myself in the shoes of the GM, so I'm not just going to throw something out there. It took me 15, 20 minutes per pick. I mean, I spent so much time on this and just didn't have enough time to finish it. So the last few picks here will just go to Kimball.
Yeah, and
who he thinks these teams will pick.
Yeah, I'll burn through these last few picks, and I have to say it's this was way harder than I expected it to be. It really was going through and figuring this out. Okay, so next I have the Seahawks. I have them taking Creed Humphrey. He's listed as a center, but he also can play guard. He's a beast. Then I have the Rams taking Baron Browning, linebacker out of Ohio State. I'm not a huge fan, honestly. I think that he is a really good prospect, a good talent. I wouldn't want the Raiders picking him, at least not until the third or fourth round at the earliest. But there are a lot of projections that have him going in even the early second. And it is a need for the Rams. The Chiefs, I have them taking Deontay Brown. He's a very good guard. It's obviously a huge need position for the Chiefs, and I think he's going to be a beast. Then I have the Browns at 59, taking Aleem McNeil. He's regarded probably on average as the number 2 interior defensive lineman in the draft. It fills a specific need for them. He's not my favorite defensive. He's not my second favorite or third favorite, but he is likely to go in the second round, I believe. In fact, there's probably about 3 or 4 interior defensive linemen that will probably go in the second round that I haven't even mentioned, and I just don't even know where I'd stick them. Saints, Elijah Molden. This is where I have Elijah Molden going. Big fan. I think it fills a need for them. He feels like a guy that was built for the Saints, honestly. I really, how they are on defense, I think it's a really good fit. The Bills. So the Bills second round pick, I have the Bills taking my second favorite defensive tackle, Milton Williams. This is a guy from the same school as Ladarius Sneed, who also has gone very, very underrated, not well known, and he is an absolute beast. His measurables jump off the chart. This guy has the potential to be an absolute monster on the inside of the defensive line. Will he be? I don't know. There have been other workout warriors before that have not been able to put it together, but he was a good defensive tackle for Louisiana Tech, and I think that he's going to be very, very good. I will say this. Aleem McNeil feels like a more Bills type of pick. And I would say that Milton Williams feels like somebody who takes more flyers than the Bills tend to. But I do like this pick here. I think it's a good value. Then I have the Packers at 62 taking Nick Bolton. At one point, Nick Bolton was said to be the best linebacker in the draft. For some reason, he's fallen off quite a bit, and I think that's primarily because of really amazing pro day numbers from a lot of other linebackers. But I think Nick Bolton out of Missouri is a phenomenal prospect. Packers take him here. And then I have the Chiefs taking Joe Tryon, who is a defensive end, very good player, very underrated. I think he probably will be picked in the second round. I do like him. I think that he is going to be a good pro. Then I have Tampa Bay, the last pick of the second round, taking Ardarius Washington. safety. Last year, they didn't have a problem taking a cornerback that was undersized, and he played phenomenally well, Winfield Jr., all the way through the Super Bowl. He was tremendous in the Super Bowl. And there was one of the reasons that he fell to them was because of the fact that he was a little bit undersized. Otherwise, it looked like he would have been, frankly, one of the best corners in the draft. And so he got overlooked a little bit, I think. Darius Washington, many people believe he actually in college was the better player over Trevon Moehrig. But that because he's so tiny, he's a tiny little guy, and he actually is not particularly fast. He runs like a 4.5 40 or something, and he's like 5'9". But he's always in the right place at the right time, just a really good football player. Would not surprise me if he got picked in the late second round, early third round. So we have that. Now, with all that said, so that's the 2 rounds in the book, and there are players such as Amari Rodgers, Jalen Mayfield, Hunter Long, Tylan Wallace, Javon Holland, Jabril Cox, Wyatt Davis, Ifitu Melifonwu, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter. All of those guys are not even on my board. I think all of those guys are probably second-round picks, and it may just speak to the reality that this draft is extraordinarily strong, or much more than average, at least, in terms of really, really good players that are between like the 10th and the 70th, 80th, 90th picks, something like that. I think this draft may just be a little bit extra strong in that area. Or I just might be an idiot and I have people in the wrong places. But it feels like those people I just mentioned could not survive into the third round. But, I don't know where to put them. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said that. I was actually going to ask what you thought about the overall part of this. Well, I think one of the reasons why it was so hard for me to do this draft was actually, I think this is one of the weakest drafts I've seen in a very long time. So many of these players, it was like, I don't know. I feel like in a different year, these players drop like 3 or 4 rounds. Even the quarterbacks, like, right? I took 4 quarterbacks. I didn't even take the guy from Ohio State or let's see, what are the
Trey Lance.
Yeah, I didn't take Mac Jones. I didn't take Trey Lance. I didn't take Justin Fields.
But you did take like 7 running backs.
I don't think I took that many running backs, but no, I only took like 4 running backs. And that's the other thing. Running backs don't go this high unless, like, in a regular draft, those running backs are going to drop 3 rounds because, there's just more important positions that are worthy of being drafted. So, I don't know. I think it's a pretty weak draft overall, and but I guess we'll find out. There are some players, though, I will say, in that range you're talking about that I just absolutely love. So, we'll see. Especially the last guy I gave the Raiders, Kelvin Joseph from Kentucky. I like that guy a lot. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, we'll see. He's a good example, though. Like Kelvin Joseph, I have him right there with Ladarius Sneed. Last year, Sneed went in the 4th round. Kelvin Joseph goes in the 4th round last year. That's what I think.
Yeah, it could be. And I haven't done this enough to really know for sure. But I will say that when you talk about quarterbacks, offensive tackles, and wide receivers, last year's wide receiver draft was pretty similar to this in terms of overall strength. But that was considered like the most incredible wide receiver class like ever, or in a super long time. So I think the quarterback class, the tackle class, and the receiver class in this year's draft is just off the charts good. I don't think we're going to see a quarterback class like this for a number of years. You and I disagree about the quality of the quarterbacks. I think Justin Fields is a phenomenal prospect. And he's going third on my draft board. And so Trey Lance, I agree that there's significant risk there. I'm not 100% sure where he goes, but I do think he goes high because there is upside and really good indicators. But man, I think that this is actually a pretty dang good class, particularly in those three positions. Now, on the other hand, defensive tackle has to be about the weakest class I've ever seen for defensive tackle. I don't really have a first round grade on anyone at defensive tackle at all.
Yeah.
And so, and
linebacker, I think it would be the Washington guy over the Alabama guy.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I have for me, Christian Barmore from Alabama is for sure my number one defensive tackle, and then my flyer is Milton Williams. You know, he's the guy that I like a lot. But there are probably about 3 or 4 other defensive tackles that I really like, but none of them, I'm not convinced any of them will be anything more than good or serviceable. So,
yeah.
Anyway, that's been fun.
It's been fun. It's going to be an interesting draft, and we will see. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll do another post draft thing where we just talk about a few of the players and how we think some of the teams. We'll grade the teams maybe if you want after the draft. We'll grade who we think, how we think that they did. I know one thing. I can tell you right now: the Jets will not draft better than I did for them.
I guess you know, beauty I have the beholder, man. I do not like your Jets draft. So your Jets draft, you came out with who? Who were your guys out of the first 2 rounds? So
I had Kyle Trask, and then I had his receiver Kadarius Toney, and then I had the tight end from Boston College, Hunter Long.
Yeah. So my Jets draft, I have Zach Wilson, Asante Samuel Jr., and Greg Rousseau. I would take mine. you love Kyle Trask. I'm not sure what the infatuation is there, but you know.
Well, you might find out in a couple of years when he's the next Aaron Rodgers or something.
Listen, man, you may be right. If that ends up being the truth, that ends up being the truth. And you've been clear on that for a long time, and you felt the same way about L'Jarius Sneed last year. So, you know,
yeah.
What am I? And you also agree on Winfield. So,
yeah. Well, and I was also right about Philadelphia's quarterback,
Carson.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen
Hurts would and that Carson Wentz would probably get traded over him, and that's what happened.
That was interesting. Yeah, you said that he wasn't a backup. That was interesting.
Yeah.
All right, man.
So we'll see what happens.
All right, brother.
All right. Well, we'll talk again later. Thank you for coming on.
See you, man. Have a good one.
All right. You too. All right. That concludes it, guys. And as always, let's make some money. Let's have some fun doing it.